This is the run we're looking at today. 3.25 miles, average pace 8:21. It is Tuesday afternoon. I just did a 25-mile run on Saturday and took Sunday and Monday off. So went back out for my first run back from that today. I'd planned on doing anywhere from like 4.5 to 5 miles at like 8:40, but I got out here, clocked the first mile at 8:37, second one at 8:25, and then hit some real big hills, up hills and down hills both, and clocked my last one at an 8:03. And then as I was coming down one of the last downhill stretches, plantar fasciitis flared up pretty bad in my left foot. So I grabbed a 1/4 mile and just decided to call it, because I've got a track workout planned this week and another big 10-mile run planned. So didn't want to push something too far. The plantar fasciitis is completely my fault. I've told you guys before that it flares up when I'm not getting enough water. I've picked up my water jug maybe 3 times today at work. Like, I've basically drank nothing all day long. So it's really no surprise that I come out here and, have problems, because history tends to repeat itself. And when I'm not getting enough water, plantar fasciitis decides to flare back up. But I want to talk about coaching tonight and why most people probably don't need a coach. You honestly, there's several different ways to go about this. For one, there's so much information on YouTube and online. Like, you can read, all the big scientific studies. You've got all these coaches on Instagram and YouTube. And then not only that, but if you've got like anecdotal, I think that's how you say it, information from, comments and, other Instagram pages and other YouTubers, saying that this is what they tried and this is what works for them. Anecdotal, I don't know. So you've got like the legit information, and then you've got all the feedback on the online world of what works and what didn't work for some people. And 2, it's really not that complicated. Now, if you're trying to set some like records or something, you might want to look into a coach. But for the average Joe, man, if you want to get stronger, eat more, lift heavy things often, and guess what? You get better at lifting heavy things. You want to run farther? Add in more miles per week. Instead of running 2 runs a week, do 3 or 4 runs a week. You want to get faster? Listen, man, you want to get better at running? Here's what I've learned from basically Instagram and YouTube. You've got to have a big base. You need your long, slow runs that you can, talk at. Have a conversational pace like this. Something with low heart rate, easy effort, something that you can probably recover from pretty quickly. And it's just a way for your body to take in the mileage without getting, hammered by some insane pace. So you get your base mileage in, very easy runs. You get some middle ground work in, for me right now, that's like anywhere from 4 to 6 or 7 mile runs at like a 8:30ish pace, quick, but I could go faster. But it's not an all-out run, but it's a working pace. And then you want to get faster, you do speed work, dude. Go to the track, run some 1/4 mile repeats, do some mile repeats. It's not complicated, dude. As far as lifting goes, in high school, dude, I was 17 or 18 years old, coached myself I think I weighed in at like 148 pounds body weight, benched 255, deadlifted 400, and I was squatting like 335 at that time. And then after I got out of school, focused on squats for like a year and a half, 2 years. And at 155, I have squatted 385 pounds, high bar, ATG, no belt, no knee sleeves, nothing. I have repped 315 for 15 reps at 155. I get fired up over this when I hear people say, I just need a coach, I don't know what to do, I don't know how to train. That's the joy in training, dude, is the experience and learning what works for you, and the ability to say that like you earned that. I wouldn't really want to go through several years of training blocks and then somebody asks me, well, what worked best for you? I don't know, I just ran a couple programs, dude. For squats, I found that high reps worked for me. I loved to push my set of 10. Started out with like 225 for 10s, ended up taking that where I was getting to where I was like, taking that for multiple sets of 10. And then so I jumped up to like 275 for 10. And then I remember doing like 295 for 10. And then I was doing like 300 for 5s. And then, started taking 315 for 5s and 6s and a 3x8. And I was like, dude, I'm going to do an AMRAP with 315 here soon. And what do you freaking know, dude? 15 reps with 315 as a freaking 5'5", 155 pound 19 or 20 year old kid. So when somebody talks to me about squats, I can say, hey brother, really heavy sets worked for me. Heavy, long sets. I did, my triples and doubles, but what I feel really did the most benefit for me was big sets, long sets of 10. Just hammer yourself, dude. Sets of 10 on the squats. Back off sets. A lot of people do their warm-up sets. If you're looking at your typical ladder program, 2x10, 2x8, 3x3, and they work up to, a max set, or you got your warm-up sets and you work up to a 5x5, and that's it. Do your warm-up sets, work up to a 5x5, and then hit your warm-up sets in reverse, because you've probably still got it in your legs to do your warm-up sets as cool-down sets. Not really cool-down sets, but like finishers. Your legs have still got it. You just got to go get it. You're leaving it on the table. And see, this is all things that I've learned through freaking 9 or 10 years of training at this point. I've never ran a program in my life. Never. The only program I've attempted is the pig squat routine, which I, changed to the numbers and stuff to, calibrate for my max. But I did that a few times. But big heavy sets of squats, son. They get you right. Injuries. I've coached and rehabilitated myself from a massive low back injury. I believe I popped a disc in my back. Dude, I could barely get out of bed for 2 weeks. It took me 20 minutes to put my socks and shoes on in the morning to go to work. Almost went to the doctor on that one. That one was scary, dude. Looked up, knees over toes guy. Looked up lower back recovery videos. Stuart McGill. There's another guy, Squat University. Watched all his stuff. You go through, you read the comments, you see what other people are referencing. There's so much information out there. I would argue that you could almost get like an associate's degree in, physical education just on online information. Anyways, and then the biggest thing that helped my back was going to a farmer and helping him pick up pumpkins. Pick pumpkins. Little bitty 10-pound pumpkins. Basically, we'd drive through the field, get out, we'd walk around and look for the pumpkins in the weeds, and then we would bend down, cut them, little bitty pumpkin, you know, a little 10-pound pumpkin, pick it up. And when I first started, I couldn't bend over, so I'd have to, you know, do like a little sumo squat to get the pumpkin. And then I'd pack it over to the pile, drop it off in the pile, go back and get the next pumpkin, cut it off the stem. And then once we got a big pile built up, we would drive the truck over there and then pick up all those pumpkins and load them into the bed of the truck. Then take that truck to the barn, unload all the pumpkins, go back out into the field and start over. 3 days of that, and this was after almost a month of like debilitating back pain. Like when I laid down in bed, I was in pain. When I went for a walk, I was in pain. Couldn't lift because I was in pain. I lived in back pain. 3 days of that, and my back was the best it had ever felt. And by the end of those 3 days, I got to where I was doing rounded back deadlifts with the 10 to 15 pound pumpkin. What can I say, brother? From all the information online and a little bit of time and patience, I learned that, hey, if you've got a back injury, I know of a few stretches, you know, pancake, like split stretch or whatever, ATG split squats, build up the hip flexors, do some dead hangs off a pull-up bar, GHD machine, good mornings, you know, that kind of thing. Get your stretches in, grab you a 10-pound plate, do some like goblet squats with a 10-pound plate. This is all stuff I've learned through experience, and it's enjoyable to know that, dude. Just don't overcomplicate things. I am like 2 weeks out, maybe 3 weeks from a 50-mile race. This training block has been completely self-coached. Now, I'm not going to say that I wouldn't be a better runner if I had a coach. Very well could be. But I want to see what I can do on my own. So I just finished up a 45-mile week. That is my biggest week of mileage to date ever. And when I started running, like when I picked running back up a year ago, you know, if I was going to do a 10-mile run, I was looking at an 11-minute pace or so for, you know, 10 miles. Well, just a few weeks ago, I clocked a 10-miler with an average of 8:30. Just did a 5-mile run like 2 weeks ago, average pace of 7:25. I just did a 3.25 mile run at 8:21. Anything sub 9 used to be reserved for, you know, like a 2 or 3 mile run. You know, now I can clock an 8:30 for 10 miles. Now I'm not doing that every time because that was a higher, you know, tempo based run. That was just kind of, you know, testing where I was at. But that's the kind of progress that I've seen. And so what am I figuring out? What am I learning that works for me in running? What everybody tells you to do. What everybody tells you, dude. Get in your slow runs. Get in your speed work. Get in your mid-range runs. Get good sleep and recovery. That is where I have failed this training block, is good sleep and recovery work. Get your cross training in, dude. Put in some strength work. I've done strength workouts, especially for the legs, this entire block, but I'm about to taper down on that. You know, just don't overshoot on the runs. A lot of your runs, you should be feeling like you have more left in the tank. So that way you can recover and come back and do it again tomorrow. It's easy, dude. You want to run more? Okay, run today, but run easy enough that you can run again tomorrow. And then guess what? When you go out there and run again tomorrow, you've ran 2 days this week. Take a day off and come back and do it a third day and a fourth day. It's not complicated, man. You probably don't need a coach. I'm just fired up because I've been seeing some people, you know, saying they can't run, they don't know how to run, they want to get better, but they don't know what to do. Things, you know, they feel like they're always running at the same pace. Let me tell you how you fix that. Sprint. All out sprint as hard as you can go for 10 seconds. Do that 1 day a week. Do freaking a 10 by 10, 10-second sprint for, 10 seconds at a time. Do 10 of those repeats. Max effort as hard as you can. And then 2 days later, I want you to jog as slow as you possibly can and still call it a run. I'm talking walking. Your breathing shouldn't even pick up. Now, if you can't feel a difference between those two paces, then you might need a coach. But if every time you go run, it feels like it's at the same pace, then you need to vary the paces you run at. Sorry, boys. I'm a little fired up. Just had a lot going on. I'm mentally locking in, son. The dog is ready to come out and I'm hungry for this 50 miler. So I've just been fired up about a lot of different things. But it's 6:05, so I gotta go home, hit a little leg workout tonight with some recovery work, and then read my Bible, get in some food, and go to bed. Anyways, boys, don't waste your money on a coach. See what you can do first. Don't overcomplicate training. Lift heavy things to get better at lifting heavy things. Run more to get better at running. It's not too hard. Catch you boys later.